I just try to entertain America. And so does Dean Blandino. Segue. Fox Sports NFL college football rules analyst, former NFL VP of officiating. Watching the game. Next thing I know, Dean Blandino says he's done with the tush push. Can't officiate. And I go, Dean, your microphone is on. What was the reaction? Why did you have that reaction in the moment?
That was a visceral reaction. Look, we had the game, obviously, Chiefs, Eagles, big Super Bowl rematch. And we had a couple of the Eagles. Look, the play, they run it better than anyone else, and they work at it, and it's impressive what they do. But just in that game, we had a couple, two goal to go plays, third down. Looks like Hurts is in. They rule him short. It's really tough to review. Can't see the football, all these bodies. Next play, fourth and goal, they rule touchdown. You've got both guards moving early. Should have been a false start. Then later in the game, another big first down conversion, and you've got the guard moving early. So it just got to the point for me where I've been on record. I don't love the play. It was illegal to push runners forever, since the inception of the league until 2005. We took it out, and in hindsight, I think that was a mistake. And now we're stuck with this play that is a really difficult play to officiate. It just is. And personally, I just don't think it's a great play to watch.
But you can officiate this by calling the guards, offsides. 100%. Why don't we start with that?
No question. Look, those should have been called. That's not that I'm not condoning and making an excuse for that. That should have been called. But I think once you take that out of the mix, it's just with all those bodies and trying to get the spot, and we're trying to be perfect on these spots, and now we have virtual measurements. It's just a tough play. My thing is it's not when you think about the rules, it's just not a fair play. The defense can't push the runner back and gain an advantage. There's always forward progress, but we let the offense do it. And look, I was watching the highlights of the Cowboys Giants game in the fourth quarter. That's everything the NFL is. You've got, Russ Wilson is to Malik Neighbors and Dak leading, and then in the history of the tush push, not once have I ever seen it on SportsCenter's top 10 plays. I just haven't. It's just.
I don't know how these officials spot the ball in that scrum. I really don't. Now, you have the overhead shot, but the officials, they can't rely on that overhead camera shot, can they, to spot the ball?
After the fact in review, yes, but you've got two officials that are down the line looking at it, and they're gonna come in as the play, as the pile kind of starts and try to get a look at the football. And quite frankly, look at the goal line mechanically, and this has been the deal forever. If they don't see the football, they're not going to rule on it. They're going to go in, dig in the pile, and if the ball is over the goal line at that point, that's a touchdown. And so that ball may have been short, but eventually it worked its way after the runner was on the ground over the goal line. So again, it's a tough play. That's been, look, short yardage plays are tough, sneaks, those types of things. But I think this play just kind of adds another layer to it.
But Dean, I am shocked that the officials didn't convey this to the owners to say, we're having a hard time officiating this. This is no bias against anybody. We're trying to do our job, and we can't do our job given the context of this play. I don't know if that's enough of an out for the NFL and these owners this next go around. It's not a pretty play. We know that. If I can't spot the ball and do my job, then that factors in something else. They keep trying to say health. There's no data yet of injuries there. You can't say, hey, somebody's going to get hurt, which they probably will. But you got to say, hey, guys, aesthetically, it's not pleasing, and we can't do our job. Is that enough to have them get rid of this play?
It should be. When you think about, like I said, it's not, when you think offense defense balance, it's not a fair play. When you do have the difficulty in officiating, and that's when you look at rules changes, you look at player safety, you look at competitive equity, and you look at officiating consistency. And if you can't consistently officiate this, it's a problem. I think everybody, look, they were 2 votes short of getting it out. I think each club had its own reasons. I do believe because the Eagles won the Super Bowl, there were some teams that didn't want to come across as, we can't stop this play. We're going to take the easy route and we're going to vote it out. I think if they don't win the Super Bowl and we still have issues with this play, there's probably a better chance that it goes away.
Talking to Dean Blandino. He used to be the head of officials for the NFL. He doesn't need that headache anymore. Fox Sports NFL college football rules analyst. Even the neutral zone. Like it seems like there's an infraction on every one of these tush pushes. And the Eagles would still be successful. They would, with Jalen Hurts, you don't need somebody pushing from behind. You can still call it a quarterback sneak. I just can't have somebody pushing from behind. That just seems, you want to think about an injury. You could have an injury with your quarterback being pushed from behind, jamming his head in there. But
no question. And look, and I agree with you. And I was talking to somebody yesterday at one of the clubs, and I think the Eagles would be successful on QB sneaks. QB sneaks, that's a high percentage play when it's 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. So they would be successful. And that's why I don't think it was illegal forever. I don't know why we need to keep this push. We don't let the defense do it. Why are we letting the offense do it?
Point of emphasis with taunting this year. How did this come about?
I think the data that they presented in the offseason and how they quantify this, I don't know. But they said, okay, they said taunting was up like 50%, violent gestures, sexually suggestive, those types of things that are in bad taste were up over. I mean, it was like 130%, whatever the number was. So they've obviously looked at film and they felt, okay, identified these actions. And they want to emphasize it because it does look, sportsmanship is important. It's something, it has that trickle down effect. Kids are watching those types of things. And you saw it. I mean, there was a big play in that Dallas Giants game where you had 3 fouls on the Giants, 3 fouls, and CeeDee Lamb gets up and gets a taunt, and it all offsets. So it's a big penalty, and this is going to be a major deal, as long as this emphasis is in place.
And protecting quarterbacks, has anything changed?
Nothing's changed. I think we've gone, again, player safety, health and safety is the top priority. I think we've gone a little too far with some of these hits. I think the quarterback position, obviously, you're in a defenseless posture when you're in that passing posture and your focus is downfield. So yeah, the head neck area, those types of things, the late hits. I do think we see some of these hits where it's just a defensive player, especially a big defensive lineman, fighting through blocks and making a tackle and just happens to land the wrong way and it's 15 yards. I think that's tough, but that's not going away. That you listed all these injuries that we have in this league, right? We need the Joe Burrows, we need the Jaden Daniels, and so they're going to protect that position.
What about listening in on replay? We've seen this with the ACC. I've been saying for years, I think with gambling, with total transparency, and I don't know if that's enough that the NFL or the officials are going to say, yeah, come on in, listen. But boy, it'd be entertaining. What do you think?
It would definitely be entertaining because I've been involved in a lot of discussions where if that went out publicly, people would definitely, get a chuckle out of it. Look,
Wait,
I think
can you give me a for instance, though, without names?
No, I was involved in a very controversial play. You might have heard of it, the Des Bryant play. Packers, Cowboys.
Should have been a touchdown, by the way.
Oh yeah, there you go. So the play happens. We see it happen. I'm watching, Mike McCarthy, who's coaching the Packers at the time, and in my head I'm going, he's going to throw the challenge flag. He's going to throw the challenge flag. And as soon as it came out, I said to the room, get ready, the SHIT is about to hit the fan. Because I knew it was going to be controversial either way, right? So those conversations, I think it's two sides. I think transparency is so important, like you said, because if you can just listen in, it eliminates any of the conspiracy, right?
Yes.
Now it might be like, wow, those guys don't know what they're doing. It might go from conspiracy to incompetence. You don't want that, but it definitely would eliminate some of that. Hey, what are they doing? We just don't get it.
If you had it, I'll give you a do-over with Des Bryant.
Under the current rule, no, that was the rule. That was an easy one. Today it's a catch, and I get it. I understand why people would have thought that was a catch. Okay. That was a layup, Dan. Come on.
Stupid rule. Right?
Well, it was a I think the catch rule, I think the problem we ran into is that forever before replay, the catch rule was written so the on-field officials could make that call in real time, right? They can't
Okay.
slow it up. They can't. So that was the rule. And that's why, hold on to it when you hit the ground was a thing. But now we have replay. It changes how we can look at these things.
Are officials allowed to be out of shape?
There shouldn't be.
I mean, it
That's
feels like there's a workout program here that, like the Ed Hockley
There's
program.
definitely, it has been, and I think we just know more. Look, when I first started at the league office, and I don't know if I've ever told you this, but 95, my first officiating clinic, the physical test that they had to pass to be an official at that clinic was walk a mile. Not even timed, just not die. And now it's much more stringent.
Do you have
So
a combine for officials?
they do. They do. They have a group that comes in and strength and conditioning and works with them and Ed, I think Ed might actually do like his own combine where it's just arms. It's just arm day every day.
It was great to talk to you. Thank
You
you.
too, Dan.
All right. That's Dean Blandino, Fox Sports NFL College Football Rules Analyst, former VP of Officiating.